Let's discuss this all now with our panel. And Dr. Kiki Ramsey is a psychologist and DEI advocate. Stefan Padfield leads an anti-woke think tank in Washington, D.C. And finally, Tishelle Lawson, author of Black is Not a Credential. Welcome to the program, all of you. You all have very interesting backgrounds. Dr. Kiki, let's start with you. So, Dr. Martin Luther King there saying, it's about the content of your character, not the color of your skin. And President Donald Trump says that DEI essentially goes against civil rights laws that he and others fought for. Isn't it time DEI was done away with?
Absolutely not. What we're talking about when we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion is allowing others to treat everybody, including people with diverse backgrounds, as decent human beings. We want to be able to show up to the table just as everybody else and have a fair shot at having the opportunities and the support we need to be able to succeed in the workplace and in this country. So it's not time for us to do away DE&I.
Stefan, do you accept that argument? It's just people being nice and giving everyone an equal chance.
No, I don't accept that argument. This is very classic, where you have the flowery language, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Who could possibly be against that? But once you lift up the hood and look at what's actually being done in the name of DEI, it ends up being just straight up race and sex discrimination. Money being funneled to certain groups and taken from other groups, promotion and hiring being shifted to certain groups and taken from other groups. So it sounds great, and I would agree with everything that was just said if in fact that was how DEI was implemented. But what we have learned over and over again is that the way it's implemented, it just boils down to straight problematic and hurtful race and sex discrimination.
But Kiki's saying it gives everyone an equal opportunity to come to the table and compete for a job. Does it not?
Well, we're at a place right now in our country where the balance has shifted so dramatically that you have white students pretending to be black in college applications because of all the benefits that are flowing to blacks in their application processes, right? We have $25 million reverse discrimination judgments coming down because companies are so built into this or bought into this idea that discrimination can only go one way. We've got programs that expressly say we're going to fund only black women in terms of entrepreneurs. And it just goes on and on and on. The idea that today a talented black man or black woman can't just be completely successful. I think there was a post the other day that said black buying power is $1.8 trillion in this country. We've got more black millionaires than ever. So this idea that there's this systemic racism bar against progress is basically just a way for the race industrial complex to keep pushing these programs.
Okay. Kiki, a quick response, and then we're over to Tishelle.
Absolutely not. You ought to understand that in today's age, we are so behind. The idea that you feel that there is a fair playing field out there is ludicrous to me. We have never been in a post-racial era. There is still race that is involved in all of the decision making. What diversity, equity, and inclusion does is it gives us a fair chance to even come to the table.
Tishelle, I don't know who to believe, Kiki or Stefan. Do black people and other ethnic minorities need these DEI initiatives or not?
No, we don't necessarily need the initiatives, but I want to expand on this a little bit more and emphasize that diversity isn't the issue. Inclusion isn't the issue. It's the implementation of DEI. So what Dr. Kiki is saying is this needs to be fair. It sounds really nice. It's just not necessarily about moral mandates. And unfortunately, DEI has become more about moral mandates. And the challenge with that is whoever's holding the stick gets to determine whether or not the morality has been implemented properly. That's not an effective way of measuring anything. So this is what's being rejected. Like Stefan just said, the problem isn't diversity. The problem isn't even inclusion. The problem is how it's been implemented.
Kiki, let me ask you about the E in DEI. It's not equality, it's equity. Now, the distinction there, I'm told, is that with equality, everyone gets a chance to apply for the job. But with equity, no matter what, there will be a portion of candidates who are ethnic minorities, sexual minorities, disabled and so on, who are guaranteed to get that job, whether or not they're qualified. Is that what's happening, Kiki?
No, absolutely not. Equity means giving people a fair shot in the sense that, yes, they may come to the table with differences, but when it comes to equity, it's still giving them a chance to be able to come to the table. See, the issue that it seems that we're arguing is based on whether DE&I means that you're qualified. People are pitting DE&I against merit, and that's not the issue here. There are plenty of candidates out there that have merit, but at the end of the day, if you don't get an opportunity to come to the table and even show your skills, then you won't get the opportunity.
Okay,
that also includes equity.
We're coming towards the end of the program, but Stefan, just quickly, is there a difference between equality and equity that means people are being unfairly treated?
Absolutely. I mean, you just have to look at the actual documents and the intellectual history behind the use of the word equity. And so, I mean, I just was recently looking at something, I believe it was Nissan, where they flat out said equity means equality of outcomes. And you look at the programs that are being pushed in the name of equity. They have actual goals, 5% of this, 10% of that. It's just social engineering.
I will say this. It's time to move past the why. We know that diversity and inclusion isn't necessarily bad. It's how. How is it being implemented? So to Stefan's point, if we're putting programs in place and calling it equity, but only certain groups are benefiting from it, it's actually not fair, and it's also not inclusion. So it's contradicting the very purpose of DEI. Affirmative action, I believe, is an extension of that fallacy.
Kiki, would you agree with the Supreme Court that affirmative action is unconstitutional?
No, and the reason why I don't agree with that is that if there was a fair playing field in the beginning, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But what I think we failed to agree upon, even on this panel, is that the playing field has always been against people from diverse backgrounds.
Stefan, just wrapping up, is there another way that you can think of, other than DEI, that can address inequalities in society?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at what is the ultimate focus of these issues of inequality is economic inequality. And we can focus on economic inequality by our corporations, by our governments, and not have this hyper focus on this extremely divisive race and sex discrimination. Just improve the economic status, target people who are behind economically in ways that are going to help them prosper, and you can have all the issues addressed that you're concerned about.
Stefan Padfield, Tashelle Lawson, Kiki Ramsey, thank you all very much. Much appreciated.